It's Purple Daily on Score North and ScoreNorth.com. Purple Daily, presented by Surly Brewing Company.
Justin, you guys are 2 of 5 in the red zone. Do you feel like when the offense did get down there that you were pressing too much, or is it just a matter of it's a condensed space and defenders are playing you differently?
I think we should, be more aggressive when we get down there, as soon as we get down there. But I'm not the one calling the plays. I'm just here to do my job and do what was told to me. But we can't get down in the red zone that many times and come out with 3 points.
Well, welcome into Purple Daily. Day after the Vikings have lost to the Rams, Zolgad and Declan Goff, executive producer and co-host Mackie, is out today. But that does not mean there is any lack of Vikings controversy to talk about, because that comment in his post-game press conference by Justin Jefferson about the Vikings red zone issues, 2 of 5 yesterday, was just one of a few that he made about the team, about the fact that he felt they didn't have a sufficient amount of juice going into what was really a must-win game in which they held the 7th and final playoff seed in the conference. The fact that he doesn't call the plays, which is very much code for, I don't like how the plays are being called, but I don't call said plays. Clint Kubiak does. And Justin Jefferson is Declan, 22. He's a well-reasoned young man. I don't think he comes off, at least at this point in time, publicly like a receiver at all. Like, he is competitive as hell. He knows how to win, but you don't get the diva stuff. And I mean, I liked Diggs, and Diggs is a super smart dude, but even he sort of trended a little bit at times and then a lot towards the end, towards the diva confidence thing, which, by the way, just to defend receivers a bit, is necessary for lots, because their livelihood is controlled by the quarterback who has the football. So the fact that receivers personality wise are so often alike is not surprising, but Jefferson to me is comes across as a far more laid back, reasoned, not, it's me type of guy. But that's what makes these comments to me so intriguing, because they aren't said with anger. They aren't said with, with a fire of, oh my God, he's mad. But I think when he talks the way that he did after the loss to the Rams on Sunday, you need to listen.
Yeah. And
here's my question, and I'll ask you first, and I've got some opinions on this as well. But what is your level of concern when you hear Justin Jefferson question his teammates' intensity, which was correct, question play calling, and basically probably get as close to a meltdown as he can possibly get, which is not the traditional, oh my God, this guy went off post game?
Level of concern, 10 being the most concerned, 1 being none at all. I'm actually only at a 5 because, number one, I like that he's being honest and he's not going about it in a negative way like Diggs did. I could even make an argument that Thielen is more of a diva than Justin Jefferson is. Thielen, as we've seen for years, will throw hissy fits in the sidelines. He was frustrated yesterday because of his injury, and I'm sure also because of the season and everything that was coming down to it, and he was clearly upset not being 100% yesterday, and I get that. But I can make a case that Adam Thielen acts more like a diva than Justin Jefferson, and just like Stephon Diggs did. He can absolutely act like that. But Justin Jefferson's right and was accurate in his state. When we looked at what Stephon Diggs did when he exited here, I think in the grand scheme of things, he was correct, but just the way he went about it wasn't the best way to do it. Even Jimmy Butler to agree with the Timberwolves. Jimmy Butler was a complete asshat about the situation, but his grand scheme, the point of what he was trying to say was right. He just went about it in an immature way. Jefferson isn't going about this in an immature way, but he is essentially NFL historically a gifted wide receiver. He just passed OBJ for that big record in a shorter amount of time, and he's a championship winner from LSU, and he's put together 2 amazing seasons and it's honestly all for nothing, right? I mean, if they're not going to make the playoffs this year, I know like statistically he's very proud of those stats, and I applaud him for being proud of those stats, but he recognizes that he's a dynamic player, and it's kind of being wasted here when they get down to the red zone 5 times, they only come away with 10 points. So it's an unfortunate situation that Jefferson has found himself in, but in terms of like my level of concern, I'm very lukewarm. Like I'm just at 5 right now because I think it's still early, but I think the Wilfs and management need to recognize that we can't have this happen again to us, which has happened to us already, not just with Diggs, but with Randy Moss, with Percy. I think those guys are much more, all those guys involved, Diggs, Moss, Percy, are much more about a me type than Jefferson is. And Jefferson, even though he's a younger pup, seems honestly much more humble than those 4 guys ever were, and seems a little bit more self-aware, I think is probably the better way to phrase that. But I'm not concerned yet. I personally am at like a 5 on that level of 1 to 10 scale.
And yeah, so in the red zone on Sunday, the Vikings were 2 of 5. They I believe also kicked 2 field goals. They had off of Stafford's 3 picks, including 2 by Barr, that they got deep in Rams territory, 10 points, not 14. So Jefferson's frustration is well placed. I saw tweets last night saying essentially what you just said, which is, here we go again. It's Diggs, it's Moss. The Moss thing was different, but it's Diggs. It's another disgruntled receiver, and it's only a matter of time now before JJ is like, get me out. Here's why I'm not concerned. Because Jefferson's words are the latest step towards change. The Diggs thing was you literally, and this can be debated, but in the case, Declan, of Stefon Diggs, you picked Zimmer and his team and said Diggs is gone. Because what Stefon Diggs wanted was correct. What Stefon Diggs was basically saying, modernize the offense. And they're like, no, this is how we play Vikings football. And they elected to, and it worked out great. Jefferson's fantastic, so it worked out just fine, but they elected to sever ties with Diggs. Mm-hmm. Justin Jefferson should never, and I don't think that he will, get to the point of I want out, because the people who he is frustrated about, rightfully so, are going to be gone. So like if this ever gets to, let's just leave Mike and Rick in place, and they'll leave Kirk in place, and now JJ's like, what are you doing? I'm gone. That's ownership's fault. And I do not see them doing that. And so what I think is the big difference here is Jefferson, what he said post-game, very rationally, very eloquently, and very correct, can be put into what I've been talking about for a month now, which is the big case file of when you fire Zimmer, right? You're like, hey, Mike, here's why. Push several sheets across the table at Mike, including one in which Jefferson is saying, what are we doing here? So I'd be much more concerned if this was, Mike is going to be around for 3 more years, Justin, suck it up. Because then he might be like, no, dudes, I'm gone. Trade me. Yeah. But I'm not concerned about that. That being said, I do think the most important thing is change is necessary. So I am not saying I'm not concerned it's going to work itself out. I'm saying I'm not concerned. I'm confident that the right people are going to be replaced, and that it might work, it might not, but Justin Jefferson is going to get a fresh opportunity as a Viking to do what he wants to do. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, in 5 red zone trips on Sunday against the Rams decks, I believe Justin Jefferson was the target of 1 pass. Yeah. Not sufficient. That's not going to work.
And we'll get into our pie chart of blame here in just a second, but and a lot of that falls on play calling and the identity of this team. And if the Vikings are going to be successful in 2022, and you also don't want to alienate your star wide receiver, well, the evidence is to embrace your damn offense and to embrace Justin Jefferson and to embrace it. And I know that sounds rhetorical, but unfortunately, this team has not grasped that point. 5 trips to the red zone yesterday, like you said, 1 target. How the hell are we giving the ball to Alexander Madison 3 or 4 times? I'm getting already worked up for pie chart.
And that pass, that pass in the flat to Madison, which was a weird looking pass that was going nowhere, and I believe was just broken up. What the hell was that?
Right.
So that's a great point. Before we do pie chart, play the Kirk clip too.
Sure.
Because I think the Kirk response to Jefferson, like here's Justin, sort of for him, being as forthright as he can be, right? Here's how Kirk responded when he talked after Jefferson did about the same thing.
Justin Jefferson was just saying he thought there was a lack of energy from the team kind of when he got here at the start of the game. Anything you can put a finger on whether that was the case or not?
We're playing a division leader at home. I think you just got to bring your own energy by making plays. We just have to find ways to, start fast and create that energy. So, yeah.
He's the corporate quarterback. Yes, he is.
That was...
Kirk Cousins is the corporate quarterback. Every answer's the same.
It's a PR. It's literally like a press release, like he's reading off.
It's
off
unbelievable,
verbatim, man.
It never ends. It never ends. Like there's nothing. There is. The words don't offend me nearly as much as the lack of any fire.
Yeah.
Like just say it like you mean it.
And Kirk's right. Like if they came out and made big plays, then the fans will gravitate, the team will gravitate towards it. That's accurate, dude. Like that, but that's unsaid. That should go unsaid.
Do you know what the problem is, Dex? And I mean this sincerely. Kirk Cousins answered that question and a lot of questions like I do when people say hi.
Hello.
There's no sincerity whatsoever.
No, there is no sincerity.
Like there's nothing like Justin Jefferson for him is bringing it, right? Like he's being calm, but he's bringing it. Like he's telling you what he thinks. We got to do this. We should do that. And the quarterback is asking, your star receiver basically said this. And he's like, yeah, you got to bring it yourself. Okay. Yeah, he's right. We should have brought it. We had to. Anyway. All right, let's move on.
Let's do it.
Because I'm sure there's plenty more pie chart to blame.
Now on Mackey and Judd.
This chart makes it as clear as I can to you.
The pie chart of blame.
You want to blame somebody?
All right, Judd Zolgad.
All right.
Chef Zolgad.
I have my pie chart right here.
Okay.
Full disclosure, my entire file blew up. And so I've had to recreate my pie. I did the pie chart last night. I did all my notes last night. And I called them up today on my Gmail, and it's all gibberish. So I have had to recreate the pie here. I have had to go back into the kitchen this morning and remake
your pie spoiled. You had a spoiled pie.
Yeah, but how did that happen? I have no idea how that happened.
You know what happened? And this happens in my fridge. I've woken up. I've had this problem. The seal. You gotta check the seal on that fridge, man. I wasn't sealed all the way. It came out in a little bit. Your 6-pack of Surly's were pushing against the fridge. I've had this happen numerous times. When you put your 6-pack of Surly's in there, and right before we get to the pie chart of blame, Judd Zolgad, what did you have to cook up, and what did you have to sip on as you had to recreate that pie chart?
That's right. It's right here. It's right here.
God, I'm good.
Your favorite beer, my favorite beer, Surly Furious IPA. And that's right. I mean, and we will get to the Surly You Must Be Furious post-game preach as well. And since we're plugging things, don't forget the show also presented by our friends at TCL TV. Enjoy more with TCL TV. In fact, plenty of great sports action over this long 2-week stretch, including the Winter Classic on Saturday that you should be watching on a TCL TV. All right, time for my pie chart of blame. I will start at the bottom and work my way up because that's just how we do things here on Purple Daily. 10% pieces, equal shares, go to the special teams. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? A punt return for a touchdown? That you were within 3 points. Like you finally have some momentum building back up, right, Declan Goff? And you give up on a day that Greg Joseph doesn't miss a field goal or extra point. You give up a punt return for a touchdown down the sideline. I mean, come on. 10% special teams. Come on down. Grab your slice of pie. Might be slightly too small. 10% offensive line. Aaron Donald is all world. I put the field glasses from the press box on Donald yesterday, and watched him exclusively as much as possible, moving up and down the line and making people look foolish. It looked like at times the Vikings linemen were playing what I referred to as the cone game, because they were like cones, and Donald would just sort of shove the cones aside, and all they could do was hope to get in the way. That being said, this is the National Football League last time I checked. You should be more than a cone. You should actually be a blocker. The offensive line, the interior is not sufficient. And you can start Mason Cole, Oli Udoh, Garrett Bradbury. You can shuffle them around. You can do whatever you want. It's not good enough. 10% offensive line. 10% Kirk Cousins. Cousins stands will pull out the game book and tell Judd to shut up. And they will tell Judd while opening up the game book, at least the old school Cousins stands. What more do you want? 27-38, 315 yards, a touchdown, a pick, but a 93.6 rating. What more do you want, Judd? And I will then flip to the first half summary and say, here's what I don't want. You Cousins stan you. I don't want 11 of 16, 89 yards, an interception, and a 56.5 rating. That's what I don't want. When it mattered in the first half, Kirk Cousins was not good. 10%. 10%.
Okay.
Small chunk of class. Okay.
Chunk.
We're up to 30%. Because now there's some big heap and help and slices that I've had to re-cook this morning. In fact, I might put a dollop of ice cream or whipped cream on these.
All right. I like that.
20% Rick Spielman. You built this mess. You built this dysfunctional group. You're the guy who claims that he's got all of these psychological studies that you do on players, that when you're going to draft a player, you have 18 guys and gals come in and evaluate their smarts and their personalities. And yet this team does not work. I mean, I'm not even getting into the fact that Jeff Gladney got himself into enough legal trouble in the spring that he was released in training camp. And yes, Justin Jefferson was a first-round pick in 2020, but so was Jeff Gladney. And he's not on your team. I'm not even getting into that. I'm getting into the just overall dysfunction of Justin Jefferson showing up in the locker room and saying, we're in a playoff spot and you guys are acting like this. That's a massive problem. That's roster construction of humans gone wrong. 20%. Rick. I could go on. I won't. 25%. So the man who didn't have this team prepared, Mike Zimmer. Mike Zimmer, man, you are basically giving the Wolves a reason on a far too consistent basis to make a change. How is your team not prepared? And don't tell me, well, the fans weren't. I don't care about the fans. You are in the final playoff spot. You have a chance to grab it by the throat. A stranglehold, Declan. A stranglehold. And you come out and play like that against the team that wants to give you that game? I'm sorry. Not sufficient. This league is not that good. You could have won that game. And quite frankly, when you have lost the amount of one-score games, Dex, that this team has, it long ago stopped being bad luck. And it started to be a problem that you are causing, that you have to look at. 25% to Zim. And 25% to an offshoot of what Zim thought and Spielman thought they had fixed. The run defense. My God. It is your good fortune, Vikings, that Sean McVay thought, I'm going to have Stafford pass a lot still. I think Matthew Stafford can pass a lot. Sony Michel and the Rams run game, which, by the way, keep in mind, Andrew Whitworth, their outstanding 40-year-old left tackle, was out because of COVID. Their center got hurt in like the first quarter. That line was depleted. And they still opened up gaps for Sony Michel. I mean, yes, it wasn't as bad as the Saints game a year ago on Christmas Day because that was atrocious, but it was embarrassing. There used to be a time, Dex, as you know well, when running on this team was incredibly difficult. Linval Joseph himself. Yep. And, you know, I keep hearing these excuses about, well, guys are out and guys. Well, no, I'm sorry. if Dalvin Tomlinson is playing and Michael Pierce is playing and Kendricks are playing, going up the A gap should not be that simple. And it's not like every run was to the far outside. A few were, but come on. So anyway, 25% run defense, 25% the head coach Mike Zimmer, 20% Rick Spielman, 10% offensive line, 10% Captain Kirk Cousins, and 10% goes to the special teams. That is my reconstructed pie chart.
Oof. All right. I have four chunks of pie.
You didn't time me, Declan. You didn't time me.
I didn't. I'm sorry. We're not at the full strength. Forgot to time you.
You're not going to do it? Okay.
Not going to do it. You had to make 2 pies. I'm not doing 2 ovens. You know, is it conventional? Is it standard? Is it in the air fryer? You know, I don't know what ovens we're using.
Right.
So I have 4 chunks of pie. And by the way, before I get into my pie chart of blame here for the loss to the Rams, be sure to check out Lewis Black Off the Rails at Mystic Lake Casino this February 12th, 2022, an 8 p.m. show. Lewis Black, one of the funniest guys around. Go check that out. We're giving away, or not giving away, but we are sponsoring a little event here with Mystic Lake. So if you want to see Lewis Black, one of the funniest dudes around, go check him out at Mystic Lake.
Nice.
My pie chart, 4 pieces of pie, very similar to yours. I will start with 20% to the run defense. Now, the run defense was horrible. It's been bad all season. They gave up 159 yards rushing yesterday to the Rams. It's been a sieve. They've spent a lot of money on trying to fix that this offseason. But even though you were being gashed by Sony Michel, the Rams were still electing to pass. The Rams were still throwing interceptions. The Rams basically gave you every opportunity to still win the game, despite them running all over you for 160 yards. So it's a chunk of pie. It deserves blame, but it's not my biggest chunk of pie for the reason you actually lost that game. Deserves being pointed out, but for me, just 20% to the run defense. I'll also throw 20% on the quarterback, Kirk Cousins. This is classic Kirk box score game. 27-38, 315, a touchdown, did throw another interception, and a 93.6 traditional passer rating. But Kirk had every opportunity to still, again, dagger that game because the Rams were begging the Vikings to win it. He led drives down to the red zone, and for whatever reason, he's throwing horrible passes across his body. The one to Jefferson was atrocious. And he still defended the reason why he tried to do that in his post-game presser yesterday. And if you're just looking at QBR, which is the ESPN version of passer rating, which takes in more context, Kirk actually had a lower quarterback rating than Matthew Stafford did yesterday. So in terms of the quarterback rating,
oh my God,
Kirk had a 36.4 QBR. Matthew Stafford had 38.4. So this is where we have to differ. What stats are actually matter, because Kirk actually, from the QBR standpoint of ESPN, played worse than Matthew Stafford. Now, eye test wise, I can tell you right now, Stafford played worse. I won't even hide from that. Stafford looked worse than Kirk Cousins yesterday. But Kirk had every right to still win the game, and for whatever reason over these last 5 games, and I think some of my pie chart of blame has to deal with that as well, he just hasn't been the same. This has been polar opposite. Usually Kirk, in his Vikings tenure, has gotten off to porous starts and then has been able to rebound for some second half.
We're fine.
Yeah,
he said my crack rib is fine. No problem at all.
Completely okay. But he did not have a good day. To me, he didn't have a good day. So he gets 20% of the blame. Not the biggest chunk of pie, but he deserves blame. Okay. The next 2 chunks of my pie are equal parts, but I will start with 30% on Clint Kubiak. Even though I blame the quarterback for some of the blame, I think Kubiak deserves more. They orchestrated some nice drives, but in the red zone, for you to only target Justin Jefferson the one time, you're literally running when the defense knows you're going to run. If you had Dalvin Cook, I could maybe understand the need to run the football a little bit more, but Alexander Mattison, who's a nice, serviceable back, is not the same back as Dalvin Cook. So why are you treating Alexander Mattison like he is Dalvin Cook, you know?
That's how they do things, damn it, Declan Goff. That's how they do things.
Back to fundamentals and back to all this stuff. Like, Clint Kubiak deserves blame, I think, more than Kirk does, for the offensive scheme that was cooked up yesterday against the Rams at home. So actually, I'll throw 30% on the young quarterback, coordinator, in Clint Kubiak. And then my final chunk of pie, which is also still equal to the offensive line. The line was terrible yesterday. The combination, I didn't even know Oli Udoh, just the poor guy never stood a chance. There was the play, I believe, in the first or second quarter. Aaron Donald just said, excuse me, like literally brushed him aside and shoved up Alexander Mattison for a loss of 4. Yeah.
He's just a
He literally
cone,
said, "Nope."
and he gets and it's like, no,
Goodbye.
move aside. Yeah, that's exactly what he did. It's so fun to watch. He's
Yeah,
so
he is.
fun to
He's damn
watch.
good. I'll say that. Even though like I would prefer him not to play. I'm glad he doesn't play the Vikings twice a year. But
Right here, Dex.
yeah,
Field
he had the
glasses.
Binocs. He had the Binocs. Good for
I
you.
had the field glasses on him. Yeah. Great.
And Garrett Bradbury was pushed around. Brian O'Neill was meh. They had no shot against that line. And that's to my point of, yes, Kirk wasn't perfect yesterday. He had his moments where he could have won the game. But in my opinion, Kubiak and the offensive line are more of the blame than that's on the quarterback. And I think a lot of our fans would even say, oh, my God, you're actually not blaming Kirk. No, I'm still blaming Kirk. But it's accurate to say that the offensive line's performance yesterday was putrid. The play calling was worse than what Kirk was able to do yesterday. I mean, Kirk was running out bootlegs like crazy and having to run and scramble for yards because no one was getting open. He was going to get tackled.
Well, he was going to get killed.
Yeah.
Like he knew before that game, and this is a Kirk thing. He knew that if he didn't roll and run, Aaron Donald was going to annihilate him.
He was going to kill him.
So yeah, he was done there. So just to go back on Stafford briefly, his traditional passer rating, Declan, 46.8. 46.8. I defy somebody to find the last time the Vikings lost a game to a quarterback with the traditional rating that bad. 46.8 is beyond putrid.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
But the QBR thing is interesting. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, so the QBR which takes in more of context. It's a 1 to 100 scale. Cousins was actually 2 points worse than Matthew Stafford, who threw 3 picks yesterday. 3 picks and underthrown. I mean,
6.
he was terrible yesterday.
Cam Dantzler dropped that ball. Damn it.
It's true. So my 4 chunks of pie, my pie chart to blame: 20% to the run defense, 20% to Kirk Cousins, 30% to Clint Kubiak, and 30% to the offensive line.
Fair enough. There's so much you could slice this pie up differently every time. Like that. That's how bad. Because the thing about this is this game was there for the taking. They literally were like, "Hey, take this game." Stafford was awful. He was awful. I saw him play better games against the Vikings in that building at times with the Lions than that piece of crap. It's unbelievable. His throws were off. They were low. They were high. They were, that first pick by Barr, the second one got tipped. The first pick by Barr, he's literally rolling out and decides, what the hell, and just lofts it up. That's a terrible pass.
Can I also say, just as another nitpick, and I know we don't do nitpicks after losses, but the TV graphics, and this is classic television press release stats that absolutely just infuriate me. Well, Anthony Barr only had 3 career interceptions in his first 90 games. He pulled down 2 yesterday. Of course he is. He's a damn linebacker. He's not going to pick off passes all the damn time. Yes, it's cool he got 2 interceptions yesterday. It's not a cool stat to bring up in the first 95 games that he only had 3 interceptions.
And that's a TV
He's not someone who gets turnovers. You buffoons. It's a linebacker. Of course he doesn't have turnovers. That'd be like bragging that Linval Joseph had 2 picks in a game. Oh my God, I couldn't believe it. I can believe it. I can totally believe it. It
I like your
clearly set me off. I'm sorry.
The first one was this irresponsible, terrible pass. It's not like he played great coverage. And the second one, I believe, was a Dalvin Tomlinson tip. So, yeah, he got fortunate. And good for him. That's awesome. But, yeah, you're right. It's like, oh, my God, he's an interception machine now. He's unbelievable. Before we get to Surly, You Must Be Furious, sponsored by our friends, of course, at Surly Brewing, which I like to call the post-game preach. Declan, can you play the clip that we played on Mackie and Judd from Justin Jefferson talking about the lack of intensity coming into that game?
Yeah, I can cue this up here quickly.
Okay.
Yeah, it Justin Jefferson and a lot of other fans kind of had this mindset as well. That, I mean, it was flat yesterday. It was the day after Christmas. But then did that kind of carry over basically with the players? And here's what Justin Jefferson had to say.
I was telling the guys that we came out way too slow. We didn't have any energy the first quarter. I don't really know. Got to look at the film to see, who did what plays we were calling, and, who was open. But I'm not really sure.
Justin, why do you think that was? Just the lack of energy?
Say it again?
Why do you think that was, the lack of energy you're talking about?
I don't know. I felt it as soon as I came into the locker room. I was, trying to pick up the guys, everything, but it still came out slow. Still, didn't come out with that energy that we needed to, especially with this type of team.
Thank you, Declan. And now it is time for Off of That Point from Justin Jefferson. Surly, you must be furious, a.k.a. the post-game preach, a.k.a. the Surly sermon. What I would like to do today is I would like to come in support of JJ right there, because this young man at the tender age of 22 was more honest, forthcoming, and helpful being the key word, than anybody else on his team yesterday. And I don't mean because he's a good player. That's important. But I mean because of what he said. And he didn't say it with anger, and he didn't say it with venom, and he didn't say it in a way where you said, oh, God, he wants a trade. At least not yet. The way he said it is this: I'm 22. I'm a star player, which he is. Can't debate that. He's a star athlete. And he knows what the face of winning looks like. And he knows that his team went into Sunday's game with an opportunity. And the sermon here is, when you have an opportunity, no matter how fleeting it might seem, and in this case, because there are now 7 seeds in each conference, undeserving it might seem, that opportunity must be grasped and run with every chance you get. Because opportunities to make the playoffs, if you're an athlete, don't come around every year. And the Vikings had that chance. And I don't care if it was the day after Christmas or Christmas Day or Christmas Eve Day. I don't care if it was a Monday, a Wednesday, or a Sunday. How the crowd reacted and it being sort of flat in that stadium can have no bearing on a veteran good football team. And it did. And Justin Jefferson is 1,000% right in saying what he said, how he said it. And I hope that message was delivered straight upstairs to the Wilfs, because they are the people that have to hear that. And they are the people who have to say, if we were contemplating change, this gets us much closer. Because Justin Jefferson isn't looking to get people fired. What he is looking to do is be on a winner, with a winning attitude, with a team that can grasp opportunity and run with said chance. And they failed miserably. And I think Justin Jefferson articulated that perfectly. Opportunity was lost by a group of people who don't even deserve a playoff berth now. The sad thing is, Justin Jefferson does. That's the post-game preach, the Surly.
Very good. Very good. Very good. A praise be to Judd.
Thank you.
Praise
Thank you. Thank you, my
You're
son.
welcome.
All right, let's get to it now, as we do, because we are contractually obligated. Declan Goff, I'm going to let you start off. Silver linings. We got to find a few things from this game to wrap up that are positives. In fact, I'm going to let you start while I start to drink from my Surly Furious, because the only way that I can find something good is perhaps to have a little bit of my favorite beer.
Oh, boy. This is one of the toughest silver linings I've had to come to terms with, because the Vikings had so many damn chances to win the game off a putrid Matthew Stafford performance, and they weren't able to do so.
Yes, sir.
So I'm just going to crutch to something very easy. I'm glad Justin Jefferson is pissed off. That's my silver lining. My silver lining is I'm glad he's pissed off.
That's fair.
He had 8 catches, 116 yards, and it still felt like a quiet day. When a receiver puts up, if KJ Osborne put up 8 catches for $116, you'd be like, damn, what a big day for KJ Osborne, right? Like that's an impressive day for the third wide receiver. But Justin Jefferson had one target, I believe, going into like the 2-minute warning of the first half. He was ignored in the red zone. And then when he comes out like that, basically just completely upset, wanting it to be aggressive, there's no energy. He should be voicing these things. And if he's upset after the loss, good. I want him to be upset about the loss. He's a playmaker. He's a dynamic person. I'm glad he said that. My silver lining is that Justin Jefferson cares about this team. It's not him being a Madonna or a diva. He cares about this team. That's my silver lining.
Yes, he knows what winning looks like. And that in no way, shape, or form resembled that. I'm going to stay at the same position group and say this, because what he did was gutsy. Adam Thielen playing through a high ankle sprain when he could barely walk. Takes guts. Do I think it was smart of the team to allow him to play? Probably not. I think that the team will try and cut his pay at some point soon? Probably. But all of that being said, Adam deserves credit. When he got tackled near the goal line by the ankles and stayed down, I thought he was done. He tried to come back again. If we're talking about guys who care, he clearly cares a lot. He clearly cares. And how I feel about the team allowing him to play doesn't mean that what he tried to do is not the most noble act that he could possibly do in saying, hey, look, we're in a playoff spot. I'm going to try and play. So my silver lining from a game that didn't have a lot is the competitiveness, the desire, and the fact that this guy tried to play through a high ankle sprain, which, by the way, to be clear, ordinarily can keep you out like a month.
Oh, yeah.
So like this is not an ankle. It's not an ankle sprain. It's much worse.
And,
good for him.
I was saying too, that earlier in this episode, like, well, Thielen can act like a Madonna and can get, really frustrated with calls or penalties. But I honestly, and I'm sure he was upset that he wasn't healthy 100%. I think it was also more of just, God, this season has been a damn grind and I just want to be healthy and contributing. And he voiced that. So I completely get it. But yeah, for him to try to, a high ankle sprain, man, that is legit. And when he got tackled, I believe it was Jalen Ramsey that wrapped him up. He got him right on the ankle. He literally he had to have act like that, had to hurt like hell, basically, is the best way to say that.
And he came back and played, and I think he finally came out. But still, and if I'm not mistaken, he caught 3 passes. So him trying to play is definitely when it looks like this team is as dysfunctional as I think it truly is, and that there's a lot of components here that don't work. A guy trying to play through that is impressive. It might not be smart, but it's definitely impressive. All right, we are done. Declan Goff, you are out tomorrow for Purple Daily. AJ will be in for you. And most importantly, Alex Boone is going to be in. And we are going to get the Rhinos' unvarnished football take on a game that he considered the game of the week. We'll find out. I'm willing to bet he's got some opinions. And then, if I'm not mistaken, Declan, we're all back in tow on Wednesday for the Purple Daily edition of Write That Down. Talk to you soon.